Hello everybody and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be helping you guys beat Steel Fortress Abyss hard. And I'm going to be giving you guys a free-to-play team that you guys can use to beat it, as well as a couple options that might not be so free-to-play. But before we do that, before we get into it, I do want to say one thing. Steel Fortress is one of those dungeons that should be last on your list. The same thing with Punisher's Crypt. When I do make a video on Punisher's Crypt, I'm going to say the same thing there. It should be one of the last dungeons you visit. Like I'm telling you, Giants, Dragons, Necropolis, all the Rift Beasts, heck, even Rift Raid, I think you should be completing way before you come to here. Because while I do believe artifacts are important, especially getting like legendary ones and even the purple ones, I can't even remember the names. But while I do think that they're important, the difference isn't big enough to warrant you skipping other dungeons. Like I think getting good runes like Violent Runes and Rage Runes are far more important than getting an artifact that might increase your accuracy by 7%, right? But regardless, I know you're like, hey, I don't care about any of that, just give me the guide. Fair enough. But that's just my warning, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the strategy info, go over the boss's skills so at least you understand where this team is coming from and why we have certain units there, as well as potentially figure out if I know a lot of you guys have tried this dungeon on your own and you're like, hey, well, I don't know why it's so hard, I don't know why I'm losing. That might answer some questions by looking at the strategy info, but I think it's going to be important to look at that first so we understand why our team is what it is, right? So we'll do that. I'll create the team and we'll do a couple runs with different types of teams, and then that'll be it, right? So let's go into the strategy info. Okay, so here we are in the strategy info. Abyssal Ancient Tormentor. The Ancient Tormentor grants various beneficial effects on himself by using his passive Steel Will. Let's go read that real quick. This has a whole bunch of stuff on it, but essentially he increases his own attack power and critical rate for 1 turn every time his turn begins. So that's not good. He's going to be doing big damage to you, and he's going to be critting on top of that. On top of that, he grants a shield equivalent to 10% of his own HP, and then he applies a defense buff to himself for 1 turn whenever he is attacked. So whenever any of your units attack him, he will buff himself and grant himself a shield. That's not good. And this is kind of the problem I have with this game. Calm to Us has this issue where the wording is awful, which makes it so hard for newer players. I mean, even me reading it, I've actually sat here and I've attempted to read the strategy info like 7 times, and I stutter so bad. I trip over my words. Like, let's read this. And grants a shield equivalent to 10% of the boss's HP and defense increasing effect on the boss for 1 turn when the boss is attacked by an enemy. It is such a mouthful for no reason. Essentially, whenever he's attacked, he gets a shield based off of 10% of his HP and a defense buff for 1 turn. Additionally, the damage received from the enemy is decreased by 20% per beneficial effect granted on the boss. So, let's see, he gets an attack buff, a crit rate buff, a shield, and a defense buff. So that's 4 times 20, that's 80% defense reduction. That is pretty big. 20% of his damage is being reduced, 20% of the damage that you're dealing to the boss is being reduced. That is massive. So the boss just tanks. And here's the problem. That's damage reduction on top of a shield. On top of a shield. So it's like you're never getting rid of the shield. So even if you're like, wow, my units have 2.3k attack and 200% crit damage. I mean, I have so much damage here, but I'm not taking the shield off. That's why. The boss is reducing all the damage you deal. It's just, the boss is just there to out-tank you, right? But that's Steel Will passive. The damage reduction of his passive will be applied according to the number of beneficial effects granted on the Tormentor. So it is recommended to use monsters with a beneficial effects blocking skill. So bring monsters that will place the beneficial effect blocking debuff, which essentially looks like that little thing with wings. And then also bring a monster with immunity, with the immunity effect to prepare against the Thunderbolt passive that the Tormentor uses on a cycle. Which the Thunderbolt passive states this: whenever the enemy's 5th turn ends, so that's essentially an entire rotation, drops a Thunderbolt on a random enemy to stun the enemy for 1 turn with a 25% chance. It attacks up to 4 times in proportion to the boss's attack power, and the attack won't land as a glancing hit. In addition, recovers the boss's HP by 10% whenever a Thunderbolt is dropped. So, while you can't quite counter this passive with a glancing hit because it just won't glance, you can bring an attack break. So units that will have an attack break, you'll prevent him from doing tons of hits because, again, he's attacking. The amount of attacks that he does with this Thunderbolt passive is based off of his attack stat. So an attack break, beneficial effects block, those are two necessary things you're going to need to have. I think in reality, all you need is the beneficial effects block. But if you want to make your team a little safer, decrease attack buff is what you're going to want. Other than that, that's essentially what it tells you here. And this pretty much tells you all you need to know. Beneficial effects block and attack break, right? But we'll read these. So his attacks are Steel Fists. The first one is an AoE that decreases the attack speed of everyone for 2 turns. Thunder Blow attacks the enemy target 3 times to decrease the attack bar by 30% each, and stuns the enemy if the enemy's attack bar drops to 0 for 2 turns. All these attacks, like what they do, I mean, the damage is gonna hurt a little bit, but the things that they do, the attack speed decreasing, the stunning, the attack bar reduction, all these can be prevented by the immunity, by bringing a unit that has immunity. But other than that, these are what the crystals do. One of them attacks the enemy target 2 times and decreases the defense for 2 turns if the enemy is stunned, that's what the boss is going to do to you. It's going to try to stun you. And then the other one is an acceleration device, which increases the boss's attack bar by 20%. Additionally, increases the attack bar by 20% per beneficial effect granted on the boss. So, when you read all of these combined, you could see how this boss becomes impossible without knowledge of this boss. You could see how it's impossible, right? He's just taking so many turns, he's stunning everybody, he's doing AoE damage, and he's just not taking any damage himself. He looks invincible at first, but now that we know everything that we need to know, we can go and make our team. Okay, so when it comes to making our team, there are a couple things that we could take advantage of. Number 1, this dungeon is a wind dungeon, so using fire units will make your team safer. I mean, you'll just take less damage, you'll deal more damage, which makes wave clear better. It makes defeating the boss just easier, so we're going to do that. There are units that we could not abuse, but there are units that are going to be very helpful for this dungeon. Verti-Heal. It's going to be that unit. I mean, he has an attack speed lead. He pushes tons of turns thanks to his passive, which essentially gives us 20% of an attack bar every time he lands a critical hit. So, again, we'll be pushing out tons of turns. Plus, again, since he's a fire unit, he's actually going to deal some damage as well. But next to that, we do have Ryok, who can deal damage. He himself will also be good for wave clear and for dealing damage on the boss. I think the speed of which you're beating these dungeons is going to be dependent on a couple things. One, sometimes his skill 1 he'll just again attack consecutively, which means he just destroys an enemy who wouldn't have been destroyed otherwise. So your runs, you're probably talking about 10 to 20 seconds in difference, dependent on this first skill. But he's a really good 2A. I recommend completing him. I mean, he's going to be good for this dungeon. Big damage dealer. Can proc a lot of turns. And he also has the combo attacks, which if he attacks with any of our allies using this second skill, if he attacks with any of our allies, I mean, Verd is going to boost turns. You're going to get units like Fron, who's next on our team, who will place the attack break, because remember, we need that attack break to prevent that Thunderbolt from proccing a lot. If he attacks with Lauren, who's also on the team, again, defense break, attack speed slow, attack bar reduction. I mean, proccing with anyone on this team is really good. Other than that, we finally need our beneficial effects blocker. I don't think I really need to explain what Fron and Lauren does. Fron, she's here for the attack buff and the immunity. But in my honest to God opinion, I don't really care about the immunity. But one thing to note, make sure your Fron is tanky. So like my Fron, I think this is a pretty decent Fron. Super fast, super tanky. I could probably improve this rune right here. Ooh. Okay, let's do it. gosh, throughout the last few days, I have been losing mana. I've been going through my mana like crazy. Okay, sorry, I had to put some grinds on her. I mean, her defense looks better, her attack looks better, her accuracy looks better, even her HP looks better. Make her tanky. You want your Fran to be tanky. There's no point of you having a healer that dies in one hit. Please. If I were to have to talk about stats, I mean, at least have at least 400 defense as well. Like, try to have around 400 defense. If you're going to have 400 defense, you better at least have around 17, 18, if not 20,000 HP. Your attack should be around 700. I'm trying to think of like a beginner stats, right? Speed at least around 100. Your Fran needs to be pretty decent in speed. Accuracy doesn't matter, but there's that. Your Lorens are going to be on like Swift Energy. I'm trying to go triple Revenge. I'm not even going to bother looking at my Revenge runes right now, but I almost went. I tried to go like triple Revenge, because if she's being attacked in places like Necropolis or Dragons or Giants or whatever, or she's not being used in Giants, but if she even gets attacked here, she's going to attack and deal damage, which is good. But yeah. But finally, again, our beneficial effects blocker. There are a couple units that you could use. The free-to-play one that they give you is Igmanodon right here, which the way he works is he has 2 chances to put beneficial effects block. That's through his second skill, where he places it with a 75% chance, or his passive, where if he gets attacked, he will place beneficial effects blocks on the attacker for 1 turn. The thing is, with the Thunderbolt passive, this counts as an attack. So if this happens to you, if the Thunderbolt passive attacks Igmanodon, which a majority of the time it does, the boss will have it. So it just takes 1 full rotation for it to happen, right? There are other units that you can use. There are units like Zinc, which I heavily recommend building Zinc if you have him. 2A him, really good unit. AoE blocks beneficial effects. AoE blocks beneficial effects. And I don't think this one does it. Oh, wait. Prevents the enemy from receiving beneficial effects. Yeah, beneficial effects block on every turn. Really good unit. We will use him in this video. There are other units that you can use that I would recommend using. Is he out here? No, but there are units like Iragar, who I wouldn't rely on him solely, but if he's on your team as well, not bad. But I think on top of that, where is Fire Pandu? I think you do it. No. I thought he did. I didn't want to say for sure. But there are many units that do it. You're going to have a lot of units that block beneficial effects. But here's our first team. We'll do a run or 2. But really pay attention to like just the damage and everything. Oh, I love this team. This team is actually pretty decent. I will say, remember, at the end of the day, I made it purely free to play. Obviously, if you have like 4 stars and 5 stars that are not so easy to obtain, that just do more than units like Ryok or Igmanodon, use them. Like, I didn't want to use Zinc at first because Zinc is a little bit more difficult to obtain than Igmanodon. Igmanodon you get through the missions. Zinc is a unit you gotta summon, so we will use Zinc in this video though. But as you can see, their wave clear is pretty nice. They're boosting a lot of turns. And they just take little damage. Oh my gosh. But here we go. So, come on. So, one thing I want to note is, there we go. So we placed the blocks beneficial effects thing. And eventually we're just going to get rid of that defense. But one thing to note is that, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, the time of this run is entirely dependent on a couple things. One, you can get unlucky with your accuracies, whatever, with Igmanodon and not landing the beneficial effects block. Sometimes the Thunderbolt doesn't attack Igmanodon. And then even Ryok, when he's using skill 1, that itself, it's like you saw, it was proccing a lot. The attacks consecutively thing was proccing a lot. But so like this run was a beautiful run. It was a very beautiful run. Everything went according to plan, and the time was 1:39. Nice. And it is a safe team. I think regardless of the time, even if you get 2 minutes and 20 seconds, it is consistent. It is consistent at the very least. So it is safe. I've done like 90 runs with this team. So there's nothing to really worry about when it comes to consistency. It's just more time. But again, there are units that can be replaced in here. Fron can be replaced. Igmonodon can be replaced. Ryok can be replaced. I think Fron and Verd are pretty staple units in a lot of these dungeons. I mean, boosting turns and preventing turns is a pretty big deal. And the thing is, with Lauren, there's also another thing that makes Lauren important. And that is the Disturbs HP recovery. Because that boss can and will lock you in, even if it's just healing. Because remember, it does heal every 5 turns, right? So if you're not dealing enough damage, if you're not landing any of your debuffs or anything, if that boss doesn't have Disturb HP recovery, it can just heal every 5 turns. Remember, because it heals off with the Thunderbolt passive, if I recall, which we might get to see that in a second. So look at its HP. You saw it just healed just now, and we still haven't landed the Disturb HP recovery, so the boss can just continuously heal if it wants to, especially since we haven't taken the defense buff or shield off of the boss. So it can be very hard to deal damage if you don't have a consistent form of Disturb HP recovery. Because look, it just healed everything back. So that's why I think Lauren is pretty important, because of Disturb HP recovery. But if you want to kind of guarantee that you land Disturb HP recovery, you could bring instead of units like Fron, you could bring units like Colleen, maybe, because on her skill 2 she does Disturb HP recovery. You could bring the Fire Panda, because he also has Disturb HP recovery, which we could use those units in this video. I mean, I have no problem with that. But you got to consider a lot of these things, because you're like, okay, I'm using his team, he's getting like 1:30, 1:40, and I'm getting 2 minutes. Why is that happening? The boss might be out healing you. So let's see if we could do that. Let's see if we could replace Ryok maybe. So what this is we have the Fire Panda. He's fusion, so he's completely free, and his third skill disturbs HP recovery. He has attack power decrease and attack speed decrease, which is going to be pretty good. And he also does damage based off of harmful effects. Defense break here. He places an AoE heal, where allies will heal every time they take a turn. And he also cleanses harmful effects. And then he counterattacks. When he counterattacks, he has a chance to defense break. So that's pretty nice. I built him on damage. I would recommend building him on damage as well. I mean, I'm not going to tell you to not do that. But I have him on Swift Guard. Rage Blade works. But I don't really care how you build him. Colleen. So my Colleen is not as amazing as my Fron, but she can do the job. She has an attack buff that lasts for 3 turns. She heals decent, and then disturbs HP recovery here. I think we'll be fine, hopefully. Let's see. I haven't tested this team, I'll be honest. This team might not work, but the only thing that we're susceptible to is harmful effects, which I think at the end of the day, I mean, we have 4 fire units, so the damage should be pretty good. Survivability should be pretty good. But the bad thing is, Lauren will catch a lot of aggro. But look at that, Disturb HP recovery. Boom! All those debuffs. But my Lauren is tanky. Like, if you're going to do like this, you make sure your Lauren, your Fron, heck, even your Colleen are tanky. Is tanky. And even Vertiheal. If like you feel like your Vertiheal dies too easily, go speed crit damage HP %. But they seem to be doing pretty well. The wave clear is not as beautiful as the other team, but again, it might help. It might be better for us in the boss stage. We just simply don't know yet. I mean, we're dishing out a pretty good amount of damage with the Fire Panda. If you set up the debuffs and the defense break and all that, I think you get out a pretty good amount of damage. Plus, again, Verd's still puts out damage. So boom. Defense break. Come on. There we go. We landed that Brutal Skin passive. Disturb HP recovery's on there, so he's not going to out-heal that. And then... that Fire Panda needs to move. Boom. And then there we go. There's that block's beneficial effects. For Igmonodon, let's talk about Igmonodon a little bit. For him, in the beginning, just build him super tanky. Tons of, you can go like speed, HP, defense, tons of accuracy, super tanky, and that's all you'll need. Your damage will come from Rayok. But for me, I have Igmonodon built tanky because that's skill 2. His skill 2 deals damage based off of his HP condition. So that's pretty nice. But this team, you kind of secure the Disturb HP recovery. You probably don't need to have the Fire Panda, but I just wanted to bring him as an example. So you could probably have the, you could probably still have Rayok here if you wanted to. But, interesting unit. There we go. That's probably going to be like 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 33 seconds. That's a very slow team, but it works. Let's look at some other units. Okay, so what we did is we brought back Rayok, and instead of Fron, we have Iragar. Now, the thing with Iragar is obviously people are going to heal based off of their damage, which means units like Lauren might suffer. Not might, they probably will suffer since she's not going to be dealing tons of damage. But he also has a beneficial effects block, attack break, attack speed break, and then whatever, right? But the fight should be over with pretty quickly. I don't think Lauren's going to die. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. But let's see. But this is a more damage-oriented team, it seems like. Ooh, wow, God. Problem is, in the beginning, I know a lot of you guys probably don't have any accuracy on your Iragar. I mean, even I don't have too much accuracy on him. And his AI is not super reliable. But when you have more units that do blocks beneficial effects on your team, it makes securing the early part of the boss fight easier. Because Iragar might land that blocks beneficial effects like he just did. And it just makes everything easier for us. That, okay. I like that. Let's see, how's this fight gonna go? Now we get an attack buff. And once that blocks beneficial effects on there, there's no way he comes back from this. So we've that was nuts. I like that. That was pretty fast. That might beat my current time. 1 minute 9 seconds. There's a thumbnail. There's a thumbnail. Oh my God, I'm gonna clickbait you so hard. Let's go and switch out Igmonodon. Okay, so what we've done here is we've replaced Igmonodon, the fire lizard man, and put in Zinc. Zinc, unlike Igmonodon, is not so free to play. You have to summon him from an LD scroll. Or if there's another event, like an LD pick event, you could always pick him then. But there are other LDs you should probably pick first. But Zinc is better than Igmonodon in the sense that for Igmonodon, Igmonodon only has blocks beneficial effects on his skill 2 and then passive. Which means if you miss a skill 2, you have to hope that the enemy attacks Igmonodon. Which, it's kind of bad. Because, one, your Igmonodon, that means your other allies are going to attack. First of all, your other allies are going to attack the boss. And the boss will get the shield and the defense buff, which will just make it harder for you to clear it faster. Right? But, and he can miss his skill too. But with Zinc, that's not the case. Now, my Zinc is a little bit off. My Zinc, I wish, was faster. But if you could get your Zinc on Swift, that would be nice. I put mine on Despair to just help with waves. But I would recommend going Swift Energy or Swift Focus. If you're a beginner, I would just recommend just going Swift. I know people might be like, oh, go Violent. Don't go Violent, in my opinion. Unless you're going to use him for, like, PvP. But, I would go Swift to just ensure that he's super, super fast. The problem is his base speed is so much smaller than everybody else's. But if you can focus on that speed, make him super tanky, and make him super accurate, you're good. I just aimed for speed. I think it was double defense. And then got HP in the subs. But, mine is fairly accurate, fairly tanky, and is on Despair Focus. And then here are his artifacts. So his artifacts allow his skill 3 and his skill 1 to be more accurate. He takes less crit damage. Here, means nothing. But yeah, so we're going to get to see him in action. Tons of AoE defense, or not defense breaks, but AoE things. So let's go through his skills real quick. Skill 1 blocks beneficial effects for 2 turns with a 50% chance, and if the enemy has a defense break on them, he decreases their attack speed for 2 turns. Skill 2 attacks all enemies to inflict damage proportionate to your defense, reduces the target's defense with a 50% chance, and blocks beneficial effects for 2 turns. Skill 3 attacks all enemies 3 times, damage proportion to your defense, 70% chance to reduce the target's attack power, and blocks beneficial effects. So everything has blocks beneficial effects. And the defense break we need, the attack break we definitely need to prevent that Thunderbolt from doing too much. Super amazing unit. Again, go Swift, but I didn't because I'm stupid. But yeah, really good unit. I recommend building him if you have him, especially if you're going to try to approach Steel Fortress. He makes everything so much better. And heck, you could even bring him into Punishers. I'm going to try and bringing him into Punishers when I do make that video. But look at that. Everybody's stunned. Everyone has their attack reduced. It makes the team so much safer. Here we are. Let's see. So we have 2 units that can block beneficial effects. Ooh, Ira Guard comes in clutch. Even if he didn't, the Zinc would have. So it's a more guaranteed team, making it much faster than the first team. Again, the only problem that we're kind of left with is the Disturb HP Recovery that you see proccing here. Which, we could fix that. We could fix that. We might do one more run after this. But look at that. Once they have the Disturb HP Recovery and the blocks beneficial effects, I mean, it's a wrap. You're guaranteed to win. But Lauren is so important. So the only unit that I would say right now on this team is replaceable is Ryok for sure. Guard probably, maybe not. I don't know. Guard is performing really well here. Okay. 218. Let's try something. I want to try something. Okay, so hear me out on this team. We have Akamamir, which technically he's free to play. You could obtain his pieces from the guild shop. You could obtain Ifrit pieces from the guild shop, which you have you have like a 33.333 whatever % chance of it being either with a water, wind, or fire Ifrit. Akamamir is obviously the wind one. The way he works, which could be beneficial to you, I mean, he could dish out a good amount of damage, is 1, his skill 3, AoE, disturbs HP recovery, which is what we're looking for. Damage based off of harmful effects, and damage increases if there's only 1 harmful effect. But he could place the disturb HP recovery. He has the same like skill 2 as Vermos, where he reduces the attack bar of an enemy. So he could reduce it completely by 50% with a 100% chance if the target's not stunned. But and then does damage with the skill 1. He could dish out damage and do what we need him to do. Let's just watch him run. We could talk more about him in the stage. But tons of AoEs from him. So I have obviously mine with the capability of despairing everybody. But look at that. I mean, that was some pretty good damage. So he could dish out good damage. And yeah. But who knows? Maybe he's good. Maybe he's good. We'll see. Oh, God. Okay. Maybe he's good, he says. Look at that. His skill 2 is the only one that doesn't really do that much damage. But again, attack bar reduction and the potential to stun. But if the enemy is not stunned, you reduce the attack bar by 50% for a 100% chance. Boom. So, obviously Lauren did it. But if Lauren would have missed, he could have potentially won it. I mean, it's just another chance to block beneficial effects, which is all we care about. So, we're just increasing our odds of landing everything that we need. We need the attack break. We need the defense break. We need the disturb HP recovery. We need the beneficial effects blocks. So the more enemies or allies on your team that do that, the easier it is, that it's going to be for you to actually beat this dungeon. And the more likely you are to land all this stuff, the faster it is that you're going to clear this. Like, let's see the time. 1:19. Not bad. And I have tested this team. I tested with the Akamimir, and the other run was about 1:30. So I could test this team a little bit more, but to just see if it would lose eventually. But I mean, 1:19 is pretty good. So with all being said, I've shown you a couple teams, and they're just an infinite amount of units that you could bring. You could take out Akamimir and put in Shayna, which Shayna has AoE defense breaks, which make wave clear pretty good. But you could use Beligear, I guess. Could you use Beligear? I mean, you could use Beligear for damage, but so there's so many units that you could use that are probably free to play. You could use Bernadette for damage. One thing is Jean. Jean could probably be really good for damage, considering that he ignores all damage reduction effects, which technically shields and defense buffs are damage reduction effects. I don't know. Things you would have to test. I recommend testing more units on your own, but I think I've given you everything you need to finally beat Steel Fortress Abyss hard. And yeah. And I'm going to ask for it. If I helped you, which I think I did. Come on, I helped you. Drop me a sub. We're so close to 1,000. Please. Subscribe if I helped you. Leave a like, comment. I'll be more than appreciative of anything that you could do. Let's get us closer to 1,000 subs. I thank you. And I hope you guys have a nice day. Gabagoo.